Hi everyone, this is Rick, and welcome back to the See the Startup Journey, a podcast sharing the origin stories of amazing entrepreneurs and their companies in short, less than 20-minute episodes. Today, I'll be interviewing the founder and CEO at Balto, Marc Bernstein. Having started organizations and businesses throughout high school and college, Marc is now leading Balto, a company building real-time guidance for contact centers. Balto is currently in rapid growth, having recently closed their Series A funding of $10 million. Let's find out their startup journey. Hey Marc, to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself as well as your company, Balto?
Yeah, Rick, happy to. So my name is Marc Bernstein. I'm the CEO at Balto. I actually started my career in tech doing B2B SaaS sales at a company named TopOps here in St. Louis. And that's where I met one of the other founders of Balto, Chris Contes. He was also in sales at TopOps. And we had this problem that we kept coming up with again and again, that we would get on a phone call. We would know what we're supposed to do in that call. We say, we were just coached on asking the right questions and making sure that we did a good closing question, that kind of thing. We would get on the call and hang up the phone and be like, we totally forgot to do everything we're supposed to do. We forgot it all. So that kept happening again and again, and we realized that there's a difference between knowing what you should do and actually doing it in the moment that you need to do it. And as painful it is for an individual to mess up their sales call or mess up their service call, imagine an organization with hundreds of thousands of salespeople kind of just dropping the ball all day. So that's where we invented Balto, or at least thought of the idea of Balto, which is real-time guidance. It analyzes everything that sales and service people say as they say it on the phone, everything that their customer says as the customer says it on the phone, and in real time is giving that agent recommendations on the side of their computer screen for how they can be as effectively as possible. So we launched Balto in January 2017, and we've been running it since then.
That's awesome. And I want to also dive deeper into your personal startup journey, because from just doing a little bit more of a research, I found that you've always been pretty entrepreneurial ever since high school. Like, you started this thing called BCC Charitable Investment Group. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's super funny. Good research. What we did is we raised money from the community, and we would do various fundraisers. In fact, a lot of folks in high school would do bake sales. Well, we said, we might be able to actually sell more if we did Pop-Tart sales. You don't have to bake anything. It's quick. You can do as many as you want. So why don't we go and see if we can get grocery stores to donate Pop-Tarts, and then we can sell them at the full retail value versus 50 cents a brownie or something. We raised all this money for charity, and then what we would do is we'd invest it in the stock market, and we would use that as a training ground to teach financial analysis skills and investment skills. And then at the end of the year, we would take whatever the proceeds are, not the principal, but the proceeds, and we donate that to a charity of choice. But yeah, I started that, and that was a really awesome organization that I know has been around for a few years after I left high school. I think it had another 3 or 4 years after that, but I think at some point it fizzled out after I left.
Gotcha. And then even at WashU too, you started this thing called DoorStep Fitness.
Yeah, we say it's personal training in your home office or local park.
Something interesting that I found about that is while you're going to your lessons, you would actually split your notebook into 2 different sections. One would be taking class notes, and the other would be brainstorming how what you learned during class can apply to your business. So I found that very intriguing. And what made you decide to start doing that, and how did those notes contribute to your company?
There's kind of 2 purposes for it, and you can think about it as the split. One is to help the business and apply as many business practices as I could, and the second was to retain the knowledge that I was learning in school. And I think a lot of folks are critical of business schools or undergrad business programs because they go, no one can teach you business. You just got to be in business. You got to learn business. And I think there's some truth to that. There really is. But what you can do and should do, I think, to make the absolute most of an undergrad business education is you should take the stuff that you're learning, all the principles, all the theories, and then go try to apply them right away. And then you can test them and you can say, okay, where is this theory that I just learned in the classroom True. Where does it fall apart? I loved my undergrad business education. Absolutely loved it. And it's because everything felt real. It didn't feel like theories. It felt real because I was taking it and I was using it.
Can you give an example of something that you learned and you applied to your business?
Absolutely. Pricing, I think, is a really clear and easy one. And that is, there's a bunch of pricing methodologies out there. So I use that to come up with the pricing model for DoorStep Fitness, where we had 1 session, 8 session, and 16 session packages. And by the way, now I kind of wish I had done a SaaS model, but if I had known what I knew back then. So, but you had 1 session that was the most expensive for $109 an hour, and then you drop down to $99 an hour. But then we wanted to really draw the focus to the third option, the 16 session package, because the whole point of personal training isn't that you do it once and you're done. It's that you have a coach who's working with you in a long-term relationship to help make your health better. So we wanted folks to choose the 16 session package. So we would go from that $99 an hour down to $79 an hour, a $20 an hour drop. So that increment of going down 10 and going down 20 is something I specifically learned in one of my pricing classes, and I was able to apply right to DoorStep Fitness.
Gotcha. And then going back to Balto, on your website, it says that Balto wants to do for St. Louis what Dell did for Austin. And basically you want to transform the city. So I was wondering, why is St. Louis so special to you?
I think St. Louis is an example of a special city. I don't think that when I was starting Balto, I was like, it's St. Louis in particular that I want to have an impact on. But it's the city I was living in. It's a city I love, and I'm now a St. Louisian. As the U.S. economy, global economy has changed, St. Louis needs to be adopting some of the industries that right now are booming. And you look at the S&P 500, you look at the Bessemer Cloud Index, and you go, shoot, there's something special in tech and cloud right now. How can we make sure that that we don't have the San Franciscos and New York Cities of the world who have are these hotbeds of talent and innovation go one way, and then have other cities who have this rich history and industrial grittiness to them, industrial culture to them, go another way? What if you can be the market-leading tech company in a 2.8 or 2.9 million person area? What if you're the tech company that everybody looks to and says, wow, that is bringing so many jobs, bringing so much talent, bringing innovation, and bringing people together? If you can be that company, not only are you able to change the landscape around you, but also that company has a tremendous advantage. It's the big fish, small pond phenomenon. And I think that is something that a lot of folks don't quite appreciate enough is if you can do something really impactful for a smaller community, the community will have your back. The community will have your back in a way that isn't quite possible with a larger city.
On your way of building this company, what has been the most challenging moments for you so far?
I think the most challenging moments was probably the first 2 years. The reason is that there's almost 2 stages of building a company, and that's before you have product market fit and after you have product market fit. And for those who might not know, product market fit is that point where the product that you have created for the market is being accepted by the market, and that your sales cycles are a reasonable length. People who are interested in your solution, that a reasonable portion of them end up converting and buying, and that the basic economic machine of your business is put together. And that's a very difficult thing to do with a product that the world has never seen before. People don't know, where do I put this in my brain? What category are you in? Whose department buys this technology? Because it didn't exist. No one has those answers yet. So in the first 2 years, you're developing those answers in order to be evangelizing to the world that the new product you have that they've never heard of, they have nothing to compare to, that's something that it solves a real need for their business. On day one, it doesn't solve a real need for their business. And And that's why you don't have product market fit. But you hear what their needs are and you fine tune it, make it a little better. And as you do that process again and again over the first 1 to 2 years, the machine comes together. All the pieces are working. Obviously, things are going to break and nothing's perfect, but everything's working. How can we then add resources in a really thoughtful way in order to turn this machine we have now, it's producing, let's say, 1 million of revenue, in a machine that's producing 3 million of revenue? And that is a really fun time when you feel like you can take a step back and invest in the machine you built versus kind of trying to patch it up at each individual step along the way, as you're kind of sinking at the same time. Because when you're starting a startup, on day one you're sinking. On day one, you have an amount of cash, you have no revenue coming in the door, and you're slowly sinking. And you got to swim faster than you can sink. And that pressure, I know a lot of people love. And I think it's definitely fun. There's something really, like invigorating about it. But I think it's way more fun to have a machine that's built and say, cool, now what can this thing do?
And kind of on the flip side of the most challenging thing, what has been the best or most satisfying moment for you so far?
The absolute best thing are the moments where when Balto has a new customer, we do an A/B test with every new customer. And that means that we take half of their users and we put them on Balto. And the other half, they're a control group. And we put them on something called Balto Lite, which is analyzing the phone call, but doesn't give the rep any help. And the absolute things that make my day is when I usually get a Slack message from customer success and they show me the 2 graphs of a new A/B test we ran. They said, look, this customer just got a 50% increase in conversions in their Balto group versus their non-Balto group, and that's statistically significant at a P level of 0.01. And I see that, and that's the moment where you say, there's an organization right now and people at that organization who are doing better in their lives than they would have done without me. And better in a way that allows that organization to go advance their goals, allows the organization's customers to be taken better care of, and allows the agents, the reps on the front line making the phones to bring home bigger paychecks for their families and feel proud of what they do and learn new communication skills. So I can always, whenever I get back one of those A/B tests, picture all of that change happening on their side. And those are the moments that I just absolutely live for.
Love that. And so where would you say you are now along your startup journey? I know you guys just closed your Series A round. Congratulations on that. And can you kind of contextualize that for me? Like, what does that mean for Balto and your next steps?
Yeah. So what it means is that we are dead set on creating a market-leading tech company in St. Louis. So we have that vision. We have that end state. We know what we need to do. And now it's about staying cool, focusing on our fundamentals, and executing on that plan in order to make it happen. But everyone at Balto has that feeling where, every single week we're announcing new hires. Yesterday we got, we 2 new people accepted their offers, and we're so excited to have them. And, every week we're just seeing, all these new customers come in, and that feeling is really infectious. So, when I talk about relying on the things that got us here, I think a big piece of that is gratitude and humility. And I think that we need to continue to be appreciative of our community, appreciative of our customers, and we need to be proud of what we've built and confident in what we've built, but with that learning mindset that says, hey, everything can get better, our organization can get better, our product can get better, and we can't start putting up walls to say, we're now a big company, don't give us your ideas because we know what we're doing. And I think if we can keep that learning mindset, that will allow us to continue to execute and be adding on. We're going to be at over 100 people next year. So that's the sort of thing that's possible when you get funding and you have an awesome team that's running behind the concept.
Gotcha. And then do you have any advice for someone like me who is still a student, but I'm interested in entrepreneurship and wants to potentially start something of my own in the future?
Yeah, the advice to everyone else out there is do exactly what Rick's doing. um, honestly, having any sort of media, I would say maybe even just more generally, thinking about something that you want to do that is building something in the world. It can be building content. It can be building a company. It can be building, something charitable. But think about like, what do you want to build? And then get started with a very, very small version of that. I think folks often say, what do I want to build? And they say, I want to build, I'll just use a metaphor, a giant 4-story mansion. And they go, I don't know how to build a mansion, so I guess I'm just going to sit here. And the answer is like, no. First, build the best basement you can possibly build, or dig the absolute best foundation. Learn how to dig a great foundation. And once you do that, then you're looking up and you say, great, I guess I got to build the best first floor I can possibly build until that metaphorical mansion is done. So I would say start with something, make sure it's small and that you think you can knock it out of the park. And once you do that, you kind of give yourself a pat on the back and say, what's next?
Got it. And then this is a question that I got from one of my audience, which is, what was your biggest fear on your startup journey?
First and most clearly, failing. And by the way, that never goes away. Believing that there's something that you can do and achieve, but not achieving it. That's the thing that's really terrifying. And then, of course, it sounds crazy, but you kind of have to bury it deep down when you think about what does failing mean for all the people around you, right? Like, oh my God. And I'll tell you, if every single day you go to your startup thinking, what if all the people who I convinced come to my startup, my friends, my family, what if they all lose their jobs because the startup fails? You're not going to have time to be effective. And I think that's actually one of the things you get from doing a startup, which is really beautiful, is you learn how to process fear better. And you learn how to have fear and feel fear and then put it aside and say, well, when that helps me achieve my next goal, I'll kind of bring that back. But until then, I'm just going to leave it right here for now.
Gotcha. And I have some rapid fire questions to end the interview. So
let's do it.
The first one is, if you could have a superpower, what would you choose?
Ability to read minds, 100%.
And what time do you usually wake up every morning?
I'm ashamed to say it. It's like 7 now. I used to be one of those 5:30 guys. I'll tell you, after a little while, it wears on you. So I'm trying to get my clock back to around 5:30, but actually, it is precisely 6:55 right now.
And then, if you can have dinner with anyone, who would you choose?
Barack Obama.
Do you have any book or podcast recommendations?
From Dale Carnegie, it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And most people hear that title and they go, oh, that sounds like gross and manipulative. And then I'm like, no. It was written in the 1930s. What he meant is like how to bring a lot of wonderful friends into your world and be persuasive when you talk. It's all about the importance of understanding other people's needs and perspectives and putting other people first as a practice and as a mindset. What does everybody around me want? And then how can I make sure that I'm, pushing the things that I'm looking for into that circle with everybody else? And how can I make sure that if the things I want aren't what everyone else wants, that I'm playing nice? I think that's something that a lot of folks struggle with right out of college and would be really helpful to get a quick head start on.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And this is the last question, which is, what's the best advice you've ever received?
For me personally, it's if you want to start a business, go into sales because you're either selling to get your first customers, you're selling to get investment dollars and have folks buy your vision for the company, or you're selling to bring talent on board and say, hey, join me in this thing we're building together. So I think that sales is the foundation of what it takes to build any great business and build a startup nonetheless. And I would totally recommend that anyone who is interested in starting something, take some time to explore sales.
Gotcha. That's it for today's interview. Thank you, Marc, for taking the time to do this. I wish you and Balto the best of luck and stay safe.
Rick, this was fun. This was fun. Thank you so much.